Part 1. The Road That Should Not Exist. Pay attention to the word treasure. It means more than just gold in this story. Thousands of years ago, there was a road that crossed deserts, mountains, and some of the most dangerous lands on Earth. It was not one road. It was many roads, long, hidden, deadly, and yet people kept walking. Why? Why would someone leave a safe city, carry silk, gold, and spices, and travel for months through heat, hunger, thieves, and war? Because this road could change a life. It could make a poor man rich. It could connect kings to merchants. It could carry not only treasure, but ideas. This was the Silk Road, and for centuries it connected East and West in a way the world had never seen before. It linked China to the Middle East to Europe, and Europe to dreams it had never imagined. Silk moved across the land. So did silver. So did horses, glass, paper, religion, stories, and power. This was not just trade. This was the first great network of the ancient world. But the Silk Road was never simple. It was beautiful and brutal. One caravan could return with fortune, another could disappear forever. In the great deserts, the sun could burn your skin by day and freeze your bones by night. In the mountains, one wrong step could kill a horse, a merchant, or an entire journey. And in the empty spaces between empires, there were no laws, only risk. Still, people came, again and again. Because the reward was too great, because silk was more than cloth. It was mystery, it was status, it was power. In the West, silk felt almost magical. It was soft, rare, and unlike anything many people had ever touched before. But most buyers did not know where it really came from. They only knew one thing. It came from far away, from a world of secrets. And that mystery made it even more valuable. The Silk Road became more than a path. It became a bridge between civilizations, a bridge between strangers, a bridge between worlds that did not understand each other, but still needed each other. And once that bridge opened, history could never go back, because after trade came influence, after influence came change, and after change came something no one could control. Part 2. Silk, Gold, and the Price of the Journey. Silk was light. That was one of its secrets. A horse could carry it. A camel could carry a lot of it. And when it reached the West, it could be sold for an enormous price. That made silk special. It was not just beautiful. It was practical, small, easy to move, hard to replace, and in many places, it was worth more than people imagined. But silk was never the only treasure on the road. Caravans also carried spices that changed the taste of food, jewels that showed power, silver that built fortunes, fine glass, rare perfumes, beautiful carpets, strong horses, and sometimes strange objects from lands people had never seen. For many merchants, this road was a gamble, a dangerous one. If they returned home, they could become rich. If they failed, they could lose everything, sometimes even their lives. That is why the journey was never made alone. Merchants moved in caravans. Long lines of camels crossed the land together. Step by step, hour after hour, day after day, the desert looked endless. The sky looked empty, and the road looked silent. But it was never truly safe. A sandstorm could appear without warning. Bandits could watch from far away. Water could run low. Food could disappear. An animal could collapse. A guide could make one mistake. And the entire caravan could vanish into the desert. Some traders never came back. Their goods were lost. Their names were forgotten. The road kept moving. That was the cruel truth of the Silk Road. It rewarded courage, but it showed no mercy. And still, people returned to it, again and again, because one successful journey could change a family forever. A poor trader could return as a wealthy man. A city could grow rich because one caravan stopped there. A ruler could gain power because rare goods passed through his land. The Silk Road was not just making merchants rich, it was making cities powerful. Places like Samarkand, Bukhara, and other great trading centers became more than stops on a map. They became places of wealth, places of stories, places where strangers met and exchanged more than goods. Because when traders arrived, they did not bring only silk. They brought languages, customs, beliefs, rumors, dreams. And slowly, without anyone fully seeing it at first, the road was doing something much bigger than trade. It was changing the world one journey at a time. Part 3, Cities of Secrets. After days in the desert, the cities felt almost unreal. First, you saw dust, then walls in the distance, then towers rising above the land, and then slowly the silence disappeared. The Silk Road was not only heat, sand, and danger. It was also life. And nowhere was that life stronger than in the great trading cities. Places like Samarkand, Bukhara, and Kashgar became some of the most important places in the ancient world. They stood between East and West like open doors, waiting for travelers, merchants, soldiers, and dreamers. When a caravan finally reached one of these cities, everything changed. The camels stopped. The guards relaxed. The merchants looked around with tired eyes. And for the first time in many days, they could breathe. Inside the city, the world felt larger. The markets were full of sound. People shouted prices. Animals moved through narrow streets. Metal tools hit stone. Coins changed hands. Children ran between strangers. And everywhere, there was movement. Silk moved from one table to another. Spices were opened for rich buyers. Jewels shined in the sunlight. Glass from distant lands caught the eye. Carpets were unrolled. Perfume bottles were lifted carefully. Every object seemed to carry a secret. But the real magic of these cities was not only the goods, it was the people. A merchant from China could stand beside a trader from Persia. An Arab traveler could speak with a man from Central Asia. A buyer from the West could hear stories about lands he had never seen. Different languages filled the air, different clothes, different beliefs, different faces. And yet, for a moment, they all shared the same space. That made these cities powerful. They were not just places to buy and sell. They were places where worlds met. A man could arrive with silk and leave with silver. But he could also leave with something else. A new idea, a new belief, a new way of seeing the world. That is what made the Silk Road so important. It did not simply move products, it moved people. And when people move, stories move with them. In these cities, news traveled fast. A merchant might hear that a king had died. Another might hear that a war had started far away. Someone else might bring rumors of a new road, a new tax, or a new danger in the desert. Information had value. Sometimes it was worth almost as much as gold. That is why these places felt alive. They were not just markets. They were crossroads of history. At night, the cities changed again. Lanterns lit the streets. Voices became lower. Travelers sat together after long journeys. They ate warm food. They drank tea. They told stories under the dark sky. Some spoke of profit, some spoke of danger, some spoke of wonders so strange that others could hardly believe them. And somewhere in those conversations, history kept moving, quietly, slowly, one trade, one meeting, one story at a time. The Silk Road was not built by one empire. It was built by thousands of journeys. And in these cities, all those journeys touch for a moment before moving on again. Part 4. The Road That Carried More Than Goods. Most people think the Silk Road was only about trade. Silk, gold, spices, jewels. And yes, those things mattered. They made merchants rich. They made cities powerful. They made kings pay attention. But the Silk Road carried something even more important, something harder to see. Ideas. That was the real power of the road. A piece of silk could make someone wealthy, but one idea could change an empire. As caravans moved across Asia, they carried more than goods on the backs of camels. They carried beliefs, inventions, knowledge, and ways of life from one civilization to another. And slowly the world began to connect. A trader might leave one city with cloth and silver, but by the time he returned home, he might also bring back a new story, a new custom, or a new way of thinking. That is how the Silk Road changed history, not all at once, but little by little, journey by journey. For example, religion traveled on these roads. Buddhism moved from India into Central Asia and China. Islam spread through trade and contact across many regions. Other beliefs also moved with travelers, teachers, and pilgrims. No army was needed, no great battle. Sometimes all it took was one traveler speaking to another. One teacher welcomed into a city. One idea repeated enough times to stay. And then there was knowledge. Paper is one of the greatest examples. Long before much of the West understood its value, paper was already changing the East. It made writing easier. It made records stronger. It helped knowledge survive. When this technology moved westward, it changed communication forever. Books became easier to produce. Ideas could travel farther. Memory became harder to destroy. That changed civilization itself. Other inventions moved too. Methods of making cloth, ways to work with metal, new crops, new medicines, new artistic styles, new designs in buildings and objects. Even food changed. People began to taste new spices, use new ingredients, cook in new ways. The Silk Road entered daily life in places far from where it began. That is what made it so powerful. It did not only change rulers, it changed ordinary people. A market in one city might look different because of a trader from another land. A rich family might wear clothes made from distant fabric. A scholar might write on paper that came from a world he had never seen. A child might grow up hearing stories from places beyond the mountains. The road was invisible in some ways, but its influence was everywhere. This is why the Silk Road was more than a route. It was a system, a living network, a bridge between civilizations that did not always trust each other, but could not stop affecting each other. And once ideas begin to move, they do not stay where they started. They spread, they grow, they change shape, and sometimes they change the future. Part 5. The Shadow and the Silence. But nothing lasts forever. The Silk Road was a giant, and even giants can fall. Slowly the world began to change. Empires that protected the road grew weak. Wars broke out in the mountains. Bandits became more common, and the journey became too dangerous, even for the bravest merchants. But the road faced another enemy, a silent one, a shadow that moved with the caravans. It was not a soldier, it was not a thief, it was a disease, the Great Plague. It traveled in the bags of silk, it hid in the fur of animals. And as the road connected the world, it also spread death. Cities that were once full of life became silent. Markets closed. People stayed inside. The bridge between East and West began to crack. And then, the final blow came from the sea. European explorers looked at the horizon. They did not want to cross deserts anymore. They did not want to pay taxes to kings. They wanted a shortcut. They found ships. They found the ocean. And once the great ships began to sail, the land was forgotten. The Silk Road became too slow, too expensive, too old. Dust began to cover the paths. The great cities of Samarkand and Bukhara became quiet. The caravans stopped coming. The camels disappeared. And for a long time, the silence lasted. It seemed like the Silk Road was dead, just a memory, just a ghost of the past. But a road this great never truly disappears. It only waits. Part 6. The Road That Lives Forever. Today, if you go to the desert, you can still see the tracks. The wind blows, but the footprint of the road remains. Is the Silk Road gone? No. It has only changed its shape. Look around you. The phone in your hand. The clothes you wear. The coffee you drink. We live in a world that is connected every second. We call it the internet. We call it globalization. But the Silk Road was the first. It was the blueprint for our world. It taught us that strangers could become partners. It taught us that ideas are more powerful than walls. It taught us that no culture is an island. The merchants of the past are gone, but their courage is still here. Every time we learn a new language, the road moves. Every time we share a story with someone far away, the road grows. Every time we choose trade over war, the road wins. The Silk Road was not just about making money. It was about making us human. It showed us that we all want the same things: safety, beauty, knowledge, and a better life for our children. The journey that started thousands of years ago has not ended. You are part of it right now. Because as you listen to these words, you are building a bridge of language, a bridge of understanding. And that is the greatest treasure of all. The road is open, the stories are waiting, and the world is still moving. One word at a time.
Thanks! Please subscribe and like. Spin a new yarn with us every week. See you there!